Let's welcome former Utah Congressman Jason Chaffetz and economic expert Carol Roth. Great to have you both with us. Jason, I'm going to go ahead and start with you. Let's talk about the Wall Street Journal piece talking about Biden's stagflation, saying that it has arrived, right? Persistent high inflation, slow growth. That's what we've got on our hands here. Yet the administration wants to call this a transition. I mean, they can call it whatever they want to call it, but we've got a bumpy road ahead.
No, we do. And these are all self-inflicted wounds. They changed the policies. They've spent a record amount of money. Now they want to raise taxes. How can they literally today go back and make the argument that they need to spend more money, that is going to fight inflation, and they're going to raise taxes? Are you kidding me? That is in no cookbook on how to deal with the economy.
Well, they're good at renaming things, right? They're now calling Build Back Better Inflation Reduction Act. And actually, we have the full screen here. It breaks down to $739 billion in new taxes, $369 billion energy and climate, $64 billion expansion of Affordable Care Act. Carol Roth, you explain to me how spending more is supposed to get us out of this hole, because I can't figure it out.
I have no idea what is going on, Jackie. You've got the Fed, who is trying to cool demand with their policies. They're trying to cool spending on the consumer side, on the business side. And then at the same time, you have the government who wants to come out and spend all of this money. These two things are entirely in conflict with each other. And I am personally sick of the people who have been wrong about everything. They've been wrong about money printing. They've been wrong about crime. They've been wrong about anything that you can think of. Now, all of a sudden, they've got the solution, and it's more spending. We all know what that means. Yeah,
and it's really interesting because we have a soundbite, Jason, from President Obama in 2009 talking about raising taxes when the economic climate is not ripe for it. Let's listen to that. You'll react on the other side.
The last thing you want to do is to raise taxes in the middle of a recession, because that would just take more demand out of the economy and put businesses in a further hole.
In the early 80s, we had Paul Volcker. He did raise interest rates to try to slow growth, but then you had Ronald Reagan, and he cut taxes because that ends up being a little bit of a balance to make sure you can kind of get the better landing that you want. And even President Obama agrees. Your thoughts?
At this point, we're spending almost 25% of the GDP is spent by the federal government. It's an absurd amount of money. And the interest on the debt is another part of the story that we haven't told. We're going to be spending about $1 billion a day on interest servicing our national debt. We don't get anything for that, but it costs the American people a lot of money. And with rising interest rates, that's only going to go higher.
Yeah, and their way of looking at this, Carol, is long-term to come up with, calculations that this is going to reduce the deficit. But many people question that. Having said that, let's switch gears for a moment, because it's not just the administration that's in denial. The media is in denial as well. Watch this.
Inflation Reduction Act climate deal was announced yesterday. Genuinely good for a whole bunch of reasons.
There is some good news tonight for President Biden. I know we have not been hearing that much.
The rather skillfully titled Inflation Reduction Act, or Build Back Better 2.0, would do a lot of good for the country. It is the cherry on top of what has been an overall good week for the Democratic Party, the president, and the country.
Wow, the cherry on top of the sundae, Carol. Many people would say not so fast, Joy.
Yeah, I think it's like putting an olive on top of an ice cream sundae. It sounds really gross to me. Listen, they've got nothing to talk about. I mean, this has been an economic disaster. There's nothing that you can say about your life that has been better under the Biden administration than it was before he got into office. So there's anything that they can cling to. And let's be honest, the Democrats love spending. They have sort of a disconnect with math and reality. So for them, that sounds like an amazing thing. They get to push all of their fantasy agendas. So I'm not surprised to hear that his media cheerleaders would be saying, oh, this is a fantastic thing, because they don't either understand or care about the consequences.
Yeah, we've got a full screen tear from Bloomberg talking about credit card debt. And this is something, Jason, that I've been watching very closely, because I worry about Americans who are having trouble with the higher gas prices, the higher grocery prices, and also that pent up demand from the pandemic. They want to get out a little bit with the family as well. I worry they're putting that on their credit cards. And in fact, MasterCard is saying that credit card debt is rising in this country. And at the same time, you got Janet Yellen, and she's saying that, this is all about semantics.
We should avoid a semantic battle. I've tried to do that in my remarks today. When you say that Americans are very concerned about the economy, I think their biggest concern is with inflation and high prices that they feel they can't afford to put gas in their gas tank. And people are worried about their retirement savings and whether or not they'll have enough to retire. Now, sometimes people use the word recession to refer to that. That's really about inflation.
All right, part of that made sense. Part of it was, kind of circular logic to follow. I mean, she gets the fact that people are hurting right now, but we're all disagreeing about what we should call this.
Yeah, look, people's real wages have gone down. I mean, this is the fundamental problem is you may have even gotten a raise at work, but inflation is outpacing you. And then you go to the gas tank and, I happen to drive an F-150. Well, it costs more than $100 to fill that tank. You can't just keep doing that.
Yeah, and gas prices are still $2 above where they were when Biden came into office. And so people are just feeling that pain. And Carol, when it comes to the pain that people are feeling, when President Trump was in office, so many times surveys would indicate, the polls would indicate that people said they felt optimistic about the future. They felt optimistic about the economy. They thought that their family was on the right track, right? These are the things that matter to people, the kitchen table items. And right now, you've got so many people saying, more than 80% that they don't think this country is headed in the right direction.
I thought they were concerned about mean tweets, Jackie. That's what I have been reliably told. I've been reliably told the adults are back in charge. It's very expensive to have the adults back in charge. And I don't think people are seeing a lot of optimism because there are no policies out there that make it clear that anybody's serious about economic security, whether it's energy, whether it's, changing jobs or anything about bringing down inflation. There's no credible policy that's moving things in that optimistic direction.
Yeah.
All anybody sees, that light at the end of the tunnel, is a train coming in the other direction, and they know they're going to have to pay for it.
Yeah, and with respect to jobs, right, the Democrats, Jason, they'll hang their hat on the fact that the unemployment rate is low right now. But what it seems to be happening is that people have dropped out of the labor force, right? So that labor participation number is down. And for every person that's looking, there are 2 jobs open. What I think is happening here, to your point about real wages, is people sit back and say, my wages aren't going up enough fast enough to keep up with the inflation. So why should I bother going to work? If I wait long enough, they'll sign another bill like they're trying to do now, calling it Inflation Reduction Act, and I will get a benefit from that. Why bother going in?
Yeah, the benefits have been far richer than actually going back to work. And I think you're right. I think the labor participation rate, that's a scary number. When you have such low participation in the workforce, people just sit back and say, no, I'll just take it on the government's dime. And that's happening in mass. It's not a very small, isolated number.
Yeah, and I think what's going to end up happening as we go into the fall, as people pull back even more, you'll see the job market start to slow. You start to see more and more companies laying off, and that adds 2 sides to this where people will be strained. And so we have to brace for that. We'll be watching very closely. Jason Chaffetz, Carol Roth, great to have you both on tonight. Great to see you.